Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports, and today we are going to recap the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, great college basketball games. We're going to preview the Final Four. We're going to talk about the state of college basketball because things are just a little bit weird right now. And then at the end of this, we have some podcast news. So we're going to talk about it. Everything should be time-stamped. Go give, your preferred section a listen. However, the best way to support this pod, whether you are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, is by subscribing. It's the best way to help us out. We really appreciate it. And if you're on YouTube, if you could give us a like, that would be incredible. Now, let's start with Florida Texas Tech. This was an incredible game. Truly one of the best games of the entire college basketball season. I loved it. An incredible comeback by Florida after being, I believe they were down nearly 16 points at one point. Just an incredible game. And I want to give credit to Grant McCasland because this performance by Texas Tech was superb. Florida outmatched them pretty much everywhere. And I thought it was a really incredible job by Texas Tech to compete in this game. Now, that being said, Florida, don't know, this is now multiple times within this tournament that they have needed Walter Clayton absolute heroics in order to win basketball games. Is that sustainable? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that. But they've made it to the Final Four. They've made it this far. It's happened several times, and Florida has always come through. So shout out to Florida. They're doing what they need to. But Texas Tech, a hell of a run. When we got to the Elite Eight, we had the 8 of 9 best KenPom teams in the country playing in the Elite Eight. Is absolutely incredible. I don't believe we've ever seen that before. And it was truly just an incredible slate. That being said, let's take it back a step, right? Let's take it back just a skosh to the Sweet 16. Alabama boat races BYU, right? We saw that. And then Florida beat Maryland. Texas Tech beat Arkansas in a thriller, in an absolute thriller. Arkansas blew that lead. Texas Tech came back in that game. Just, I think, and I don't say this in hyperbole at all, I think Grant McCasland is one of the 5 best coaches in college basketball. I truly believe that. What he's done at Texas Tech in such a short time is very impressive. I think he is one of currently the 5 best coaches in the sport. And I truly believe that. He is absolutely outstanding. Ole Miss and Michigan, Chris Beard, and Michigan State, sorry. Chris Beard had that team fighting, man. They had that team fighting. I loved that. It was a 3-point game, but Michigan State really kind of had control of it for most of that game. Just a really good, solid basketball game. Two well-coached teams. Tennessee knocked off Kentucky. Proof that it's hard to beat a team 3 times. That's the SEC having to match up time and time again within the tournament. It is tough, but that's what happens when you are such a phenomenal conference. Auburn beat the brakes off of Michigan. Game wasn't really close. Is what it is. And then Houston-Purdue. Houston, the blob, the baseline out of bounds call to end that game was either one of 2 things. It was either a tremendous job by Houston scouting Purdue's tendencies, or a tremendous job by Houston adapting to what they saw and making the correct play. It was absolutely incredible. Super pumped for Kelvin Sampson and Houston and what this team is doing. But that game in the Sweet 16, I thought was absolutely incredible. Purdue, for what was a down season for Purdue, obviously after going to the national title game last year, they still made it to the Sweet 16. They competed with one of the best teams in the country. Houston has one regulation loss all year. I believe they have 4 losses, 3 of them in overtime, 1 in regulation. And Purdue took them to the absolute ropes. Braden Smith, a hell of a player. I mean, this Purdue team, they're going to be a problem next year. They're bringing back a lot. Assuming that Trey Kaufman-Wren returns, I think this could be a very dangerous Purdue team. But Houston advances in the Sweet 16. Just an incredible game. One of the best games of the tournament. Absolutely one of the best games of the tournament. We already talked Florida, Texas Tech. Duke, Alabama. Right? Alabama, after coming off of the shellacking of BYU, he runs into Duke. And I felt very good about me betting on Florida to win the national title. I felt very confident in Florida. I thought that they were playing the best basketball in the country. Right now, it's Duke. It's absolutely Duke. And I don't think second place is that close. Second place, probably Houston. But Duke is an absolute buzzsaw. What they did to Mark Sears and that Alabama team defensively was so unbelievably impressive. If Duke is playing their A game, I don't think they are beatable. Now, it's the NCAA tournament. Anything can happen. Anybody can have an off night. It's a one-game, single elimination tournament. So let's not get our panties in a wad here. But Duke is a fucking problem. They're a fucking problem. I'm not ready to crown them as like the best team in my lifetime, but I think they are one of them. I think they're one of the best teams in my lifetime. It truly an unbelievable display by the Blue Devils. Cooper Flagg didn't even play that well. Cooper Flagg did not play that well against Alabama, and they still beat them by 20. 20 points. It's legitimately insane. I absolutely love it. Moving on to Sunday's games. Houston dismantled Tennessee. And I don't know what you do if you are a Tennessee fan or Rick Barnes. Like, what do you do if you are a fan of the Tennessee Volunteers? Because I don't know how you sit here and be like, well, we had a great season. Because you did. All right? You did. You had a phenomenal season, Tennessee. Like, I'm not going to, yeah, it sucks to hear it. I'm also going live on TikTok. So if you're asking questions in the TikTok, I will get to them. But if you're Tennessee, what do you do? Right? Like, how do you move on from here? Right? What's the next step? I don't know the answer to that because we've seen the same thing over and over and over again. And it's very, very, very successful. But last year you ran into Purdue, who you just weren't going to beat. This year you ran into Houston. You just weren't going to beat them. You matched up poorly. It is what it is. I don't know what the next step for Tennessee is. I really don't. But a hell of a year. Houston's just a problem. Houston is a problem. They are one of, if not the best team in college hoops. And then Auburn beat Michigan State. Auburn did a phenomenal job of containing in the paint and limiting Michigan State. Michigan State could not get the fast break going. They could not be explosive. They could not go on runs. Auburn limited Michigan State offensively. Michigan State did a good job against Auburn, especially defensively. But when they ran their guys off the three-point line, I thought that Auburn took advantage of the twos. Janai Broome played well. Interested to see if he's going to be healthy as we head into the Final Four. They do get a week off, which should help. But I'm interested to see how this dynamic goes because I'm not sure. But I loved what I saw from Auburn. I feel like this was one of the better games Auburn had in the tournament because there were times where they struggled a little bit. But I thought this was a pretty complete game. So looking at TikTok, answering back one of the questions, thoughts on South Florida hiring Hodgson. I think it's a good hire. I feel bad for South Florida because Amir Abdul-Rahim was a very, very, very good coach. And him passing in the offseason was tough. It's terrible for his family, for the community in South Florida. But I think the Hodgson hire has them headed back at least in the same direction that they were under Abdul-Rahim. Can you rate Mark Pope's first season? It's a success. It's a success, right? You lost in the Sweet 16. It is what it is. But this was a roster that you had to build from scratch, essentially. You went from BYU to Kentucky. So you couldn't bring BYU guys with you, really, because one, it's just a step up in class and competition and whatever. But in two, like those are two very different schools, very different programs. So you couldn't bring recruits over from BYU. You had to build that roster from scratch. You had to completely build out of the transfer portal. You didn't really get a chance to recruit in the offseason. They went to the Sweet 16 in a year where the SEC was insanely good. Insanely good. And you lost to one of those SEC teams. So I feel If you are a Kentucky fan, if you are a Mark Pope fan, a member of Big Blue Nation, I would grade it like a B plus. Like it's very good. Very, very good. Obviously, it's not an A plus, right? Especially when Kentucky has such high standards for what goes on that program, what that program stands for. Like the expectations of Kentucky are as high as they come. It is what it is. But I think they did a tremendous job. So shout out to Kentucky. If you're in the TikTok chat and you are, I'm going to try to go live on TikTok while I'm doing these more. We'll see how it is. But continue to ask questions. If you're on the YouTube version, ask questions in the comments, especially as we get into the off season, and I will try to answer those questions very pointedly because there's a lot going on. I be in the comments on TikTok saying this season will go down in history. Loved every second of it. I think it was a really good season for Kentucky, and I think they should be proud. Yeah. All right. So let's keep it moving to the Final Four. I don't. It's interesting doing a solo podcast is always tough because like I feel like I am just rambling. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just going. But like at the same time, hey, it is what it is, right? So keeping it moving. We are 11 minutes into this beast. Let's preview the Final Four. So I want to talk about it from a gambling perspective, from a ball perspective of what this means for college basketball perspective, because there's a lot going on in college hoops right now, right? The transfer portal is going nuts. If you guys are paying attention to the transfer portal, recruiting, all of that, it's absolutely insane. It's chaos. It's craziness. And college basketball is in a weird spot, but it's not in a bad spot. And anybody telling you that this is the downfall of college basketball, I think is very overplayed, right? This is one season where all 4 1 seeds are in the Final Four. And we've seen this before. This isn't something new, right? This happened, I believe it was 2008, 2007, where this has happened before. And college basketball is still doing just fine, right? It's still doing just fine a decade and a half later. So I'm not going to sit here and say that college basketball is dead because we didn't have a Cinderella run this year. That's fine. But also, if you watch college basketball all season, right? It's a long season. We started in November. These teams have been dominant from start to finish the entire season. Auburn has arguably the greatest pre-tournament resume in the history of college basketball with their off-season schedule. They played all 3 of these teams in the Final Four. That's ludicrous. That's absolutely insane. Florida, on the other hand, won the SEC tournament in a year where the SEC was argued as one of the greatest college basketball conferences in the history of the sport. And they won that conference tournament. They were playing well, unbelievably well at the end of that season. An incredible season from Florida, right? Houston, one loss in regulation, winning the Big 12 after joining it just 2 years ago. They now have back-to-back Big 12 titles. Houston is playing on another level. They're destroying teams. They obliterate bad teams. And what Kelvin Sampson has done at Houston is take them to a level that Houston has not previously seen. They had the 2020 Final Four run, which, I'll say it, a little Mickey Mouse. It is what it is. But now they're here again after playing an unbelievably difficult path to get here. Shout out Houston. They deserve every ounce of praise that they're getting. They're damn good at it. And I think that out of the 4 teams here, that like if Duke beats Houston, I'm going to pick Duke to win it all. It's going to be a tough game. And then Duke is arguably one of the greatest teams that we have seen in the history of the Ken Pom era of college basketball, which started in 1996. This team is insane. Insane. From the defensive, Maluak on the back end defensively, you have Tyrese Proctor, who's been there, gives them stability. Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. The way that their offense facilitates and moves, you can't stop all of them. You have to pick your poison. There is no weakness. Con Knipple is an absolute lightning rod offensively, and he's not even the best offensive player. It's insane how great this Duke team is, and I don't know how you stop them offensively. I don't. And their defense is just as good because you've seen them be able to defend multiple different teams in multiple different styles, multiple different ways, right? They ran Alabama off of the 3-point line, put Mark Sears in a spin cycle. it was incredible defense. They've defended so well for so long now that the offense is getting all the love, but the defense, I believe the defense is absolutely exceptional for this Duke team. So I'm excited for these games. Let's talk Florida Auburn, because we've seen this throughout the SEC season. You now have the total is 160. Auburn is a 2.5-point underdog. Now, I initially saw somewhere on the old interwebs that Janai Broome is listed as questionable for this game. Now I'm gonna take a look on the old twitter.com, the old X, to see if there's any news. But Janai Broome being healthy is so important. Yeah, I'm a dipshit. It's April Fool's. Of course he's playing. Of course he's playing. Yeah, duh. God, I'm an idiot. Yeah, Janai Broome, I don't know. He won't be 100%, but like, who is at this point in the season, right? It's April. I think that they will give Florida problems. Now, Florida, in any time that Florida has gotten their asshole tight, they've made the plays that they've needed to. Right? This is a team, they're 34-4, right? They've seen tough competition. They've won tough games. They've won close games. And I feel confident in Florida's ability to really adapt to what Auburn does, right? This is a Florida that can win a basketball game a million different ways. It might be my favorite thing about this Florida team is how adaptable they are. Mark Clayton is absolutely incredible, but there is something to say about Bruce Pearl having some more tournament experience than Golden, right? Todd Golden he's been a great coach, but this is his first tournament experience, right? Like this is their first tournament experience. Florida knocked off Auburn at the end of SEC play. And that was on the road. It was a gutsy win. I guess not the end of SEC play. It was, February. But still, it's a gutsy win on the road against Auburn in the jungle, right? Now you get them, neutral site, San Antonio. I feel good about Florida. I'm going to pick Florida to win. The line is, 2.5? So I'll take them to win and cover. I'm fine with that. But, yeah, I like Florida. Kyle, I appreciate the question on the live. We will get to that after I talk about Duke Houston. All right, we'll talk a little bit about the women's tournament before we get into the State of the Union for the podcast. So stay on. We absolutely will get to that question. Duke Houston. This game is a legacy-defining game for both of these programs, and here's why I say that. This is Jon Scheyer's third season as the head coach of Duke. This is a team that has all of the expectation in the world on them. They have the National Player of the Year in Cooper Flagg. Their recruiting class is absolutely insane. They have all the 5 stars, right? This is a unbelievable roster for Duke. This is a legacy-defining game for Cooper Flagg. He could go down in a school that has such a storied history and an unbelievable history and a beautiful basketball history. Cooper Flagg could go down as the greatest motherfucker to ever do it in that school's history. Now, there's Grant Hill, there's Jay Williams, there's JJ Redick, right? The line of guys that have come from Duke is long. So, I could be wrong there, right? But in terms of pure talent and pure skill and the best basketball player that has ever put on a Duke uniform, if Cooper Flagg wins the national title, I think you could argue that it's Cooper Flagg. I really do. There's so much going on with this team, what they're doing. I love Duke. I love what Jon Scheyer's done. It's incredible. Also, if you haven't watched Jon Scheyer basketball highlights, you absolutely should, because they are fucking ridiculous. This dude was a weapon, an absolute weapon on the hardwood. Moving over to Houston. Legacy game for Houston. Kelvin Sampson. In a college basketball story that has been up and down. It's been marred a little bit. It's been, there were some question marks, the ugly, leaving of Indiana. Kelvin Sampson has been just such a good coach. When it comes to winning basketball games, he is so goddamn good. And he could take Houston to a place that they have not been in a long, long time. Houston, under Kelvin Sampson, they have the Final Four in 2020. But if they beat this Duke team, who is one of the greatest teams in the history of the Ken Pom era, and then they go on to beat either Florida, who won the SEC in the greatest year the SEC has ever had in basketball, or they go on to beat Auburn in what is the greatest pre-tournament resume of all time. Houston would go down, in my mind, as one of the best college teams to win a national title ever. I feel, honestly, you could really say that about any of the teams left in the Final Four. But I think Houston, with Kelvin Sampson and what they've done, and knowing that, LJ Cryer and him, LJ Cryer has the chance to be the first player to win a national title at two different schools. Won a national title at Baylor under Scott Drew, and then now has a chance to win a national title at Houston under Kelvin Sampson. Just an unbelievable story that Houston would be. I'm super excited for these games. I'm going to take Houston to cover the +5, but this game could go either way. I love it. I'll take Duke to win. I cannot wait. I think a Duke-Florida matchup, really, any national championship matchup that we get is going to be outstanding. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Just a reminder, if you guys are watching on YouTube or listening to the audio version of the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to help the channel. But let's talk about the women's Final Four a little bit. Haley Van Lith and TCU. So they knocked off my Notre Dame. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, which is ironic because I'm wearing a TCU shirt, but I have if you're watching this, well, you got to watch on I'm wearing a TCU sweatshirt, but a Notre Dame shirt underneath, which is hilarious because they played each other. So we got to give Haley Van Lith her credit. What they are doing is spectacular. Very, 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 very good. I am so glad that they lost, though. I'm so fucking glad that they lost. I'm so fucking glad that they lost. Now, shout out to TCU for sending me this sweatshirt. I appreciate it. I think, honestly, this might be a TikTok shop one. Shameless plug. But I'm so glad that they lost because Sedona Prince is a terrible human being. But Haley Van Lith, what she has done was incredible. Did not play well I'll just say it, she didn't play well in that game against Texas. She was like, shot 20% from the field, 33% from three, still had 17 points, but 10 of those came from the free throw line. She played well, not great, not good enough to beat this Texas team. There's a reason Texas was the number 1 seed on that side of the bracket. And now we get, the women's side, 3 1 seeds and then 2 seed UConn, which is damn good. I'm excited to watch these games. I think South Carolina, Texas will be a lot of fun. Both of these programs now in the SEC. You have Dawn Staley, who's been just such a staple of college basketball for a long, long time now. Her team has been absolutely dominant. And then you have Paige Beckers and her incredible college career coming to what is a beautiful close, in my opinion. UCLA, who has just storied basketball history. I think the women's Final Four will be very exciting as well. Excited to watch these games. I absolutely will be tuned in. I don't know who I'm going to root for, to be honest. Probably just because we've seen so much South Carolina and UConn success. I'll probably root for like a UCLA Texas championship, but should be a phenomenal matchup. All right. If you stayed this long in the podcast, I appreciate you. We are 24 minutes in. As you've noticed, this is a solo podcast. Nick, not on the show today. I'm hoping to get Nick back on at some point, but it will be as a guest rather than as a co-host. Love Nick. he just doesn't have the time commitment to do the pod anymore. And with me having my kid here in the next couple of weeks, the schedule in which I'm able to record my podcast, I don't do this full time, right? So the schedule in which when I'm going to be able to record is going to be really tough. So we thought, hey, I think it's best to kind of do our own things. And I love Nick. I wish him all the best. I'm going to support him in everything that he does. He's the absolute fucking man. And I hope that, we can go watch a game together at some point. But so the new podcast format is going to be a little different. So here's what's going to happen. We have the rest of the tournament. So we have this episode. We have next week's episode, which is going to be a recap of the national title game, of the Final Four, a recap of the college basketball season. And then I'm hoping to get some incredible guests on. We are going to start immediately diving into college football. So obviously there are things that happen in college basketball. We're going to talk about that as well. It is still a total college sports podcast. I'm not going to make it just a college football podcast now that our big college basketball brain in Nick is no longer with the program. But we're going to have some cool stuff going on. So I am working to get a lot of college sports personalities. I'm also working to get college sports athletes on the show. So I really want this to be a format, a podcast, wherever, where people can come and talk college sports. I want to get, the players on here, talk about their experiences. So love Nick. He's going to do incredible. Make sure all of his stuff will still be in the description of the YouTube video. Make sure you go give him a follow because he absolutely deserves it. But I'm excited. It's going to be a little different, but Nick and I did 2 college football seasons and 2 college basketball seasons together. We had an incredible time. We did awesome numbers. We grew the podcast to over 500 subs, which has been great. We're just turning the page, different chapter. It's going to be awesome, and I'm super excited for it. Not wait. Do me a favor. The next episode that we have come out is going to be the recap of the college basketball season. We'll give out some awards. We'll do, we'll recap the games. We'll do all of that. Be a friend. Tell a friend. The next chapter of Smash Hit Sports and the Smash Hit Sports podcast is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to share it with y'all. That's it for this episode. Nice, short, sweet, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.